What if I were to tell you that in some places in the world, the animal that you actually need to fear the most and the one that could land you straight in a hospital is nothing more than the common housefly. These are the insects that doctors fear the most. Because by the time their patients arrive, parasites are breeding, infections are spreading, and organs are failing. Today we are counting down the top 5 bugs that immediately put doctors on high alert. We start with the parasite doctors will recognize instantly. Unfortunately, victims often do not. That's because this parasite eats you alive from a bite wound just below the skin. The botfly. Found throughout Central and South America, this insect follows one of the most disturbing life cycles known to science. Most insects reproduce by laying their eggs on plants, in soil, under the water, or in some cases, in animal carcasses. What makes the botfly so disturbing is that it is one of the rare exceptions that prefers living tissue. In the case of many botflies, human skin creates the perfect environment for their reproductive strategy. However, it doesn't start there. By placing their eggs onto a blood-feeding insect like a mosquito, the botfly increases the chances of its eggs and eventually its larva ending up with a warm-blooded host. Once the mosquito bites your skin, the eggs will fall off from your body heat, and there they will hatch, and larvae will then scurry into the hole created by the mosquito where they can live for weeks. Doctors and biologists fear the botfly not for how common they are, but for how specialized they become. Their larvae don't like being removed and have grown reverse barbs to lodge themselves within their victims, a specialization that makes their removal dangerous if done improperly. But the most unsettling part is that many victims are not even aware of what's happening until they can feel something wriggling around under their skin. I once worked with a field biologist in the Amazon who joked about naming the botfly that was living in his shoulder. Out in the wild, the bigger fear isn't the parasite, it's the infection they would get if parts of the larva broke off while trying to yank them out. So instead of risking hospitalization, some biologists let the larva grow under their skin and let it move around and feed for weeks until it's finally big enough to crawl out on its own. Let me just say for the record, I am very grateful to have never had to name my own pet botfly. Up next is the most feared arachnid in all of North America, the brown recluse spider. What makes it truly dangerous isn't aggression, it's how easily it blends into our lives. And they can look so harmless, like a regular house spider that can quietly live in the same closets, garages, and bedrooms that we do. Found living throughout much of the United States, the brown recluse is small, shy, and rarely confrontational, which is exactly why most people never realize they've been bitten at all. But its venom triggers something that doctors truly dread: delayed tissue necrosis. That means the bite can seem minor at first, only for the skin to begin dying and falling off in the days to come. Doctors also fear brown recluse bites because they're often misdiagnosed in early stages, and in severe cases, destroy enough of the tissue that it requires skin grafts and surgery to repair. And once that necrosis begins, there is no stopping it. Dead tissue doesn't heal itself. It has to be removed, or simply fall off on its own. All right, guys, before we get back to it, I've got to tell you about these new shirts that I've been wearing on my adventures lately. The brand is called Poncho, and they are insanely comfortable and durable. They are made from a performance nylon fabric that's extremely breathable, and it has built-in sun protection that dries super fast. When I'm out on these adventures, I'm pretty hard on my gear, so if I'm going to pick a shirt, it needs to be lightweight, flexible, and seriously tough. This one has strong enough thread that if you snag it on a branch, it won't rip or create one of those pesky tears. And actually, I should have been wearing one of these shirts when I filmed that Choya Maze video. This particular shirt is named the Ahi. For me, this neutral solid color is perfect and always fits in when I need it to show up on camera. So if you want something that looks killer and is built to handle the extremes of the outdoors, you gotta check these guys out. Head over to ponchooutdoors.com and find the shirt that fits you best. All right, now back to the action. Whoa, honestly, If the brown recluse spider bite doesn't make your skin crawl, just wait until you hear about this next bug. The screwworm fly is one of the most dangerous insects that doctors encounter throughout tropical regions in the Americas. This fly targets vulnerable body openings and wounds. And here's another unsettling fact. You won't even notice it. Adult screwworm flies look like ordinary metallic green houseflies. They don't bite, they don't swarm, and they don't announce themselves in any way. Typically, it's just one female fly that finds its way into an opening in your body, and that fly can lay hundreds of eggs. And within 12 to 24 hours, those eggs will hatch. Similar to the botfly, they don't feed on dead tissue. They consume living flesh. But unlike the botfly, it's not just one larva, it's dozens. Eyes, nasal cavities, surgical wounds, nothing is off the menu. And this isn't just a meal, it's an invasion that can turn quickly into a life-threatening emergency. That's right, unfortunately, many people have died from screwworm infections. The tissue is ravaged and in many cases can trigger severe infection or sepsis. That's why regions where screwworms exist, doctors don't wait for lab confirmation. If they suspect an infection, they act immediately. That's because they know this insect doesn't need to bite, swarm, or attack you, something that would register in the victim's mind. All it needs is to find an open wound or a vulnerable body opening and infest. Alright, now we are getting close to the bug that doctors fear the most. But before we reveal number one, we need to talk about the unsettling runner-up. This insect is colorful, widespread, and even has a nickname that sounds harmless and almost affectionate. The second worst bug that doctors fear the most is the kissing bug, which is a species of an assassin bug that is found throughout Mexico, Central, and South America. And the species gets their name assassin because in order to easily quench their thirst for warm blood, they'll attack you while you're asleep. And what makes this nighttime feeder even more unsettling is where it bites. These bugs target the lips, cheeks, under the eye, and your forehead while you're sleeping, almost like they're going in for a kiss. Hence the name, kissing bug. When the bug feeds, it often defecates near the bite site. That's right, it turns your face into a toilet. And the feces that it leaves behind contain a parasite that causes a deadly disease known as Chagas. That's why the facial bites are especially concerning to doctors, because the closer the bites are to the mouth and the eyes, the easier it is for the parasite to enter your body. And when that parasite invades, it can lead to an infection that quietly spreads and attacks your vital organs for years. By the time a patient feels something is wrong, the parasite may have already damaged the heart, digestive tract, or vital organs. All this to say, if you do know you've been bitten by a kissing bug, you can actually seek preventative treatment. That's right. You can have a parasite screening. If you find that you have the parasite that causes Chagas, you can actually take an antibiotic to cure yourself of any long-term damage of this disease. Now, I have been bitten twice by assassin bugs. And both times, yes, I was tested and screened for the parasite that causes Chagas. Thankfully, neither occasion resulted in a positive test. Okay, now it's time to reveal the number one bug that doctors fear the most. You might not believe there's an insect more feared than an assassin bug, but there is. And its scientific name is derived from the Greek word meaning human eater. And of course, that most feared bug is none other than the mango fly. Found throughout the tropics of Africa, this parasite is responsible for some of the most intense and distressing cases of human parasite infection ever documented. At a glance, it's about the size of an ordinary housefly. If you saw one land nearby, you'd never think twice. It doesn't sting, it doesn't chase people or swarm them, and you know what? It doesn't even bite. So how in the world does this ordinary looking fly land itself at the top spot on our list? Well, unlike a botfly, which usually infests your skin a single larva per site, mango flies commonly infect your body with multiple larvae feasting on top of each other. And oh boy, does this story turn nasty. And it's a good time to state that viewer discretion is going to be advised for the rest of this video. The danger of the mango fly begins actually far away from your skin. Females lay their eggs on your clothing, towels, and bedding if left outdoors to dry. When those items are worn or wrapped around your wet body, the heat triggers the eggs to hatch. and that's when they burrow directly into your skin. At first, you may experience only a slight itch, but then the pain will eventually develop and increase within a few days into boil-like lesions that bubble up on your skin from the growing larva. And now comes something that I never, and I hope that you never, have to experience for yourself. As the larvae mature, they create a small opening in the skin that allows them to breathe and also drain out fluid containing blood and other waste products. So while the bug is literally eating you alive, it's expelling out those feces right onto an open wound. And then on top of that, it's not just one. There's dozens of them all in one infected area. Doctors fear mango fly cases because most of the time, the infestations can be widespread. In severe cases, improper removal or delayed treatment can lead to abscesses, systemic infections, and of course, hospitalizations. And what also makes the mango fly infection truly terrifying is just how routine it occurs, and again to the same individuals. These infestations are very common in sub-Saharan Africa, and when doctors see multiple moving lesions on patients' bodies, they act immediately. Removal of mango flies cannot be delayed because waiting only increases the damage and the risk of infection and ultimately the complications that can be life-threatening. So there you have it. Those are the bugs that doctors fear the most all over the world. And I only hope that you learned something from watching this video and that you never, ever have to experience any of that firsthand.